Okay, so you know how we always get questions about how to get signed, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. Like, it's a pretty big deal for a lot of producers, especially in EDM.
Yeah, totally. And honestly, it can be so confusing trying to figure out where to even start with all of it.
It really is. There's just a ton of info out there, and sometimes it's not even clear if it's good advice.
Right. And then the whole industry's changing all the time, so what worked a few years ago might not work now.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure. So what are we looking at today to help clear some of this up for everyone?
Well, for this deep dive, we went all over the place. We checked out some YouTube videos from artists, label people, like managers and lawyers, even.
Oh, nice. And what else?
We dug through articles from music blogs, all those industry websites, and even spent some time on Reddit seeing what the EDM producers are talking about in those communities.
Reddit's good for that sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the mission for this deep dive then?
Basically, we want to cut through all the noise and figure out the most important stuff, the stuff you can actually use.
Yeah.
Actionable steps.
I like that. So we're demystifying this whole getting signed thing.
Exactly. And hopefully we can give everyone a much clearer path forward so they can go after that goal with, a real plan, not just hoping for the best.
Totally. And I think a good place to start is with the most obvious thing, the music itself.
Oh, yeah, duh. But I mean, it really is the foundation of everything.
It is. And something we saw over and over was that you got to be making really, really good music.
Yeah, like actually good music.
Right. It's got to be good. And Astro Bear, this EDM producer we were looking at, he said he's heard that labels reject tons of submissions just because the music's not good enough.
That's kind of brutal, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah, but it's also true. Like, it's the first thing you got to clear if you want a label.
Makes sense. So it's not enough to just have a track that sounds okay. It's got to have more to it, right?
Right. It's got to have a main idea, something strong and interesting that pulls you in.
Okay, so what you're saying is it should have a concept or a theme.
Yeah, something like that. And a mistake that new producers make a lot is trying to cram in too many different sounds or ideas.
Like they get overwhelmed by all the possibilities in their DDAW and just throw everything in.
Exactly. And it makes it hard to hear what the track's really about. You know what I mean?
Totally. It's like
Okay.
if you were telling a story but kept jumping between different characters and plots.
Yeah, exactly. It gets confusing. And that ties into arrangement, too. You know how your track's put together?
Right, making sure all the pieces fit.
Yeah, and that you're not overwhelming the listener.
Okay, and this connects to that Swift arrangement thing, right?
Yeah, like get into the main part of the track quickly.
Like no messing around.
Astro Bear said that Mousetrap actually asked him to shorten the intro on one of his tracks.
Interesting. Did they say why?
Yeah, they basically said that they knew their audience wouldn't wait that long for the drop.
That's wild. I mean, I guess it makes sense, though.
Yeah, people's attention spans are super short these days, especially with EDM. Yeah. It's all about that instant gratification.
So you got to grab them right away.
Exactly. So besides making good music and arranging it, well, there's also the whole originality thing.
Right, like you need to stand out from the crowd.
100%. We saw this on Reddit, actually, where a user, John Hammond Tenzel16,
Yeah.
was saying that originality is like the absolute most important thing.
Makes sense. You don't want to sound like everyone else.
Nope. And another user, DDJFLX4, actually quoted No Mana from Mall 5 Trap, who said, "You got to make music that's as good as or better than what's already out there."
That's a high bar.
It is, but it's the truth. Labels are looking for something new, something exciting.
So you got to bring something fresh to the table.
Exactly. While it's good to know what the current trends are, you don't want to just copy what's already popular.
So where's that line between being original and making sure your music still fits within a genre?
Yeah, it's a balance for sure. And we actually saw a great example of this, Astro Bear, the same guy from Reddit, right?
Yeah, the one with the shortened intro?
Yeah, so he made this track that was a little bit different, a little bit out there, you know?
Out there.
It's like not your typical EDM sound. And he got some really positive feedback from Graham Sahara, a label manager.
No way. So they were into it.
Yeah, they really liked this unique guitar sound he had made using Moto bass.
Interesting. What kind of label was it?
I don't remember if he said, but the point is, the label manager even suggested he try adding an indie vocalist to the track.
Wow. So they were down to experiment.
Yeah, which is encouraging, right? It means that you can still have your own style, even if it's a bit different.
As long as the music is good.
Exactly. So basically, don't be afraid to experiment a bit, but make sure it's good.
Okay, so let's say you've got the music down. You're making awesome original tracks. What's next?
Well, these days, labels are looking for more than just good music.
Like what?
It's all about your profile, your whole online presence.
Oh, right, because now with the internet and social media labels can see how much of an audience you have.
Exactly. They want to see that you're already building a fan base and connecting with people online.
It's like they're looking for a ready-made artist.
Yeah, in a way. And we saw a bunch of examples of this, like Justin Bieber, The Weeknd, Shawn Mendes, Ed Sheeran.
All those huge pop stars?
Yeah, they all got their start online,
Yeah.
building an audience on YouTube and stuff.
That's crazy to think about. So basically, having a strong online presence shows labels that you can actually bring in listeners.
Yeah, and that you know how to market yourself,
Mm-hmm.
which is super important these days.
And it's not just about having a ton of followers either, right?
Right. It's also about building relationships with people, like playlist curators on Spotify.
Because getting on those big playlists can really boost your visibility.
Yeah, for sure. And labels pay attention to your monthly listeners and your stream counts.
So those numbers really matter.
They do. And then there's TikTok, which is like the new frontier of music discovery.
Oh yeah, TikTok's huge for music now. It's not just dances anymore.
No way. Labels are actually scouting artists on TikTok now, looking for people who are blowing up and creating engaging content.
That's wild. So basically, you got to be active online all the time.
Pretty much. You got to release your music regularly, but also create content that's interesting and relevant to your audience.
It's like showing labels and potential fans that you're serious about your music.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about showing that you're dedicated and you're in it for the long haul.
So consistency is key.
Absolutely. You can't just pop up every now and then. You got to have a plan for your online presence and stick to it.
Okay, so you've got the music, you've got the online presence. Now you got to get your stuff together for labels, right?
You need a demo and an EPK.
A demo, I get. But what's an
It
EPK?
stands for Electronic Press Kit.
Yeah.
It's basically your resume for the music industry.
Oh, interesting. So like all your important info in one place.
Exactly. And one mistake we saw a lot of new producers making is sending their music to labels too early.
Like they're not ready yet.
Right. There was even this advice that said, if you've only been producing for like 6 months, don't bother sending anything to a big label like Monster Cat.
Ouch. That's gotta sting.
Yeah, but it's realistic. Unless you're some kind of prodigy, you got to put in the time to develop your skills.
So when is the right time to start sending out your demo?
When you've got a few solid original tracks that you're really proud of.
Not covers or unfinished ideas.
Nope. Your demo is your first impression. It's got to be your best work.
So quality over quantity.
Definitely.
Mhm.
And when you're recording your demo, make sure you plan your studio time wisely.
So you don't waste time and money.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Know your tracks inside and out so you can get in and out of the studio efficiently.
Okay, and what about that EPK thing? What goes in that?
So it's basically a way for labels to get a quick overview of you as an artist.
Like a snapshot.
Yeah. So you need a short bio, like 150 words max.
Keep it concise.
Yep. It should cover your background, maybe include a cool story or a quote from a good review.
Okay, what else?
You'll need some professional photos, links to your music and videos.
Like music videos and live performances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And any press you've gotten, any career highlights you have, and of course links to all your social media and streaming platforms.
Wow, that's a lot of stuff.
It is. But it's all important. You want to make it easy for labels to find everything they need.
So how do people usually present their EPKs?
There are a few ways. You
Okay.
can make a nice presentation using PowerPoint or Google Slides and then export it as a PDF.
So you can attach it to emails easily?
Yeah, some people make websites specifically for their EPKs too.
Oh, fancy.
It can be more interactive that way. And there are also platforms like Reverb Nation that are made for hosting EPKs.
Cool. So many options. So you've got the music, you've got the EPK. Now, how do you actually find labels to send this stuff to?
That's where research comes in. You got to find labels that release music in your style.
Right, because you don't want to send your deep house tracks to a tech house label.
Exactly. A good way to start is to look at artists you like and see what labels they're on.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you can usually find the label info on Spotify or Apple Music.
So you're basically following the trail of labels that already support the kind of music you make.
Exactly. And once you've got a list of labels, you got to find the right people to contact.
Like, don't just send it to a general inbox.
Right. Try to find the A&R manager or a specific demo submission email address if they have one.
Personalized is better.
Always. And when you're writing your email, don't just copy and paste the same message to everyone.
Yeah, tailor it to each label.
Exactly. Mention artists or releases that you like on their label and explain why you think your music would be a good fit.
So they know you've actually done your research.
Yep. It shows you're serious. And don't be afraid to reach out to a lot of labels.
Like, don't just send out 5 emails and call it a day.
Right. It's a numbers game. to some extent.
Hmm.
The more labels you contact, the better your chances.
And what about following up? How do you do that without being annoying?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's generally okay to follow up once or twice, you know?
Like after a couple of weeks.
Yeah, just a quick email to see if they've had a chance to listen.
But don't pester them.
Exactly.
Mhm.
If they don't respond after a couple of follow-ups, it's probably best to move on.
And we should probably mention that sending demos through DMs on social media is usually a no-no.
Unless they specifically ask for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not professional.
Stick to email.
Yep. It's more likely to get seen that way.
Yeah.
And I actually saw this tip for making initial contact that I thought was pretty clever.
Oh, what is it?
So if you find a broken link on a label's website, you can email them to point it out.
That's kind of random, but I see what you mean.
Yeah, it's a way to start a conversation without being demanding.
Like you're doing them a favor.
Right.
Now.
And if they respond, you can then mention some of their artists that you like and then ask about their demo submission process.
That's actually pretty smooth.
Well,
Okay, so let's say a label is interested. What happens next?
well, that's when you got to start thinking about record deals versus distribution deals.
Right, because those are two very different things.
They are. So with a record deal, you're basically giving the label ownership of your music.
Like they own the master recordings?
Exactly. And in return, they usually give you money up front, called an advance.
Oh, so you get paid right away.
Yeah, but it's not free money. You have to pay back through your royalties later.
Oh, I see. So it's like a loan.
Exactly. And besides the advance, record labels also provide support for things like recording, marketing, promotion, and sometimes even touring.
So they basically invest in you as an artist.
Yeah. But the trade-off is that they take a bigger cut of your profits.
Because they're taking on more risk.
Exactly. Now, distribution deals are different.
How so?
With a distribution deal, you keep ownership of your music.
So you have more control.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the distributor's main job is to get your music on all the platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, etc.
So they handle the technical side of things.
Right. And they take a percentage of your revenue, but usually less than a record label would.
So you get to keep more of your money?
Yep. But you also have to do more of the work yourself.
Like marketing and promotion.
Exactly. And there are a bunch of different types of record deals out there, too.
Like,
There are 360 deals where the label takes a cut of all your revenue streams, not just your music sales.
so like merch and touring too.
Yeah. And then there are traditional record deals where they mainly focus on your music sales.
And there are deals for singles, EPs, albums?
Yep. And licensing deals, publishing deals, production deals. It's a whole world.
Sounds complicated.
It can be. So it's important to understand the differences in what each type of deal entails.
And are there any downsides to record deals? Things people should watch out for?
Oh, yeah, definitely. For one thing, you're giving up ownership of your music.
Which can be a big deal for some artists.
Yeah. And you could end up in debt to the label if your music doesn't sell well.
Because of that advance you have to pay back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you might also have less creative control.
Hmm.
You know, the label might try to influence your sound or your image.
Like they want you to be more commercial.
Yeah, something like that. And then there's always the chance that the label might just shelve your music.
What does that mean?
That means they sign you, but then decide not to release your music.
That's brutal. Why would they do that?
Maybe they think it's not commercially viable, or maybe they just change their minds. It happens.
So there are definitely risks involved.
There are. So it's important to weigh the pros and cons carefully.
And what about distribution deals? Are there any downsides to those?
Well, the main downside is that you don't get the same level of support from a distributor as you would from a record label.
So you're more on your own,
Yeah. You have to handle a lot of the marketing and promotion yourself.
which can be a lot of work.
It can. But some people prefer that, they want to be in control of their own careers.
I get that. And I saw that some people even create their own record labels.
Yeah, that's definitely an option. But it's a lot of work.
You're basically running a business.
Exactly. You got to have the money, the time, and the expertise to do it right.
So it's not for everyone.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But if you're really serious about your music and you want total control, it's something to consider.
And there's that thing about upstream deals, right?
Yeah, so basically, sometimes smaller distributors get bought out by bigger labels.
And that can change the terms of your deal.
Yeah, sometimes it can be good, but sometimes it can be bad.
Like you might end up with a less favorable deal.
Right. So you got to be careful and read the fine print.
This is all making my head spin.
Yeah.
I think the takeaway here is that you really need a lawyer to help you with all this.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that advice over and over. Don't sign anything without talking to a lawyer first.
Like an entertainment lawyer who specializes in music.
Exactly. They can help you understand the contract and make sure you're getting a fair deal.
Because there's a lot of legal jargon in those things.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And there's some key things to watch out for in a record contract.
Like what?
Well, royalty rates are super important.
Like how much money you get per sale or stream.
Yeah. The industry standard is usually around 50-50 or 60-40 between the label and the artist.
But major labels might offer a better rate, like 70-30.
Yeah, if you're a bigger artist.
Mm.
But you got to watch out for deductions.
What are deductions?
They're costs that the label takes out of your earnings before they calculate your royalties.
Like what kind of costs?
Things like packaging, digital distribution, marketing costs,
Yeah.
sometimes even streaming costs.
Oh, wow. So you could end up getting way less than you think.
You could.
Yes.
So you got to make sure you understand all the deductions before you sign anything.
And there's that recoupment thing too, right?
Yeah, that's a big one. So basically, you don't start earning royalties until you've paid back your advance and any other recoupable expenses.
So it could take a while before you actually see any money?
It could. And recoupable expenses can include all sorts of things: recording costs, marketing, video production.
So it's important to know exactly what's recoupable before you sign.
Absolutely. And you should also pay attention to the length of the contract and any exclusivity clauses.
Exclusivity means you can't release music with any other label, right?
Yeah, exactly. And some contracts can be really long, like 5 years or more.
So you're basically locked in with that label for a long time.
Yeah. And there's those controlled composition clauses, too.
What are those?
They basically limit how much you can earn from mechanical royalties.
What are mechanical royalties?
It's the money you get when your song is reproduced, like when it's pressed onto a CD or downloaded.
Oh, interesting. So those clauses can really affect your income.
They can. So it's something to be aware of, and always try to negotiate for better terms if you can.
Like better royalty rates or a shorter contract.
Exactly. The more you can negotiate, the better.
So what are some alternatives to traditional record deals? These days, there are a lot more options, right?
Yeah, for sure. Self-releasing is becoming really popular.
Like you just put your music out there yourself.
Yeah, you can use platforms like DistroKid, TuneCore, Bandcamp.
Those are all digital distribution services, right?
Yeah, they get your music on all the major platforms,
Hmm.
and you keep ownership of your music and most of the revenue.
That sounds pretty good.
It is. You have more control and you get more money.
But you also have to do more of the work yourself.
Right, like marketing and promotion.
So it's a trade-off.
It is. But for some people, it's worth it. And there are also artist services deals and distribution plus deals.
What are the...
They're kind of like a hybrid between a record deal and a distribution deal.
So you get some support, but also some independence.
Exactly. And don't forget about other ways to make money from your music.
Like what?
Sync licensing. Getting your music in movies, TV shows, video games.
Oh yeah, that can be lucrative.
It can. And there are performance royalties, mechanical royalties, digital sales, live shows, merchandise.
So many options.
Yeah. There are more ways than ever to make money from music these days.
So you don't necessarily need a record deal.
Nope.
Huh?
But networking is still super
Oh
important.
yeah, you got to get out there and meet people.
Exactly. Go to industry events, conferences, showcases, bring business cards,
Yeah.
talk to people.
It's all about building relationships.
Yeah. And collaborations can be really helpful too.
Like working with other artists?
Yep. It can expose you to new audiences and help you grow your fan base.
So networking and collaborating are key.
Definitely. And before you even start sending your music to labels, you got to get feedback.
Like from other producers and musicians.
Yep. It's crucial to get honest feedback on your music before you share it with the world.
Because you don't want to waste anyone's time.
Right. And you want to make sure your music is the best it can be.
So feedback is essential.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So to sum up, what are labels really looking for these days?
Yeah, what are the key factors?
Well, first and foremost, they're looking for good music.
Like high-quality original music.
Exactly. And they want to see that you have commercial potential.
Like your music could actually sell.
Right. They want to know that there's an audience for your sound.
And that you already have a fan base.
Yeah, they want to see that you're building an online presence and connecting with people.
And that you're releasing music consistently.
Exactly. And they want to see that you're professional.
Like you have a good EPK and you communicate well.
Yeah. And they want to know that you're easy to work with.
Like you're not a diva.
Right.
Yeah.
They want someone who's collaborative and open to feedback.
So basically they're looking for the whole package.
Pretty much. We want someone who's talented, marketable, and professional.
And who already has a following.
Exactly. That's what makes you attractive to a label.
So it's not just about the music.
Nope. It's about everything.
Well, this has been a really informative deep dive. I think we covered a lot of ground.
We did. It's a lot to take in, but hopefully it's helpful.
Yeah, I think so. The main thing is to just keep making great music.
Absolutely. That's the foundation of everything.
And build your online presence. Be professional and get feedback.
And don't be afraid to reach out to labels.
But do your research and make sure you have a lawyer.
Always.
Yeah,
So what do you think success looks like for an EDM producer these days?
that's a good question. I mean, with all these new platforms and opportunities, it's not as clear cut as it used to be.
Right. It's not just about getting signed anymore.
Yeah, there are so many different paths you can take.
So I guess the real question is, what do you want your career to look like?
And how does a record label fit into that vision, if at all?
Exactly. Food for thought.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
You got it.
We'll see you next time.